Being 30 and still having nothing to your name, the scariest part is not that you have not built anything yet. The scariest part is starting to believe your life has already run out of chances. Some people have been working for nearly 10 years. They still wake up on time every morning, still drag themselves home exhausted every night, and stay busy every single month like a machine. But when they look back, their bank account still feels thin. Their future still looks blurry. And deep inside, there is always a fear they cannot quite name. You are not lazy. You are not irresponsible either. You are just walking down a road where money rushes through your life every month like a strong current, but never settles long enough to become even a single brick in the foundation of your future. But what matters even more is this. A lot of people think they are broke because they do not earn enough yet. That is the first false belief. The truth is, many people get raise after raise for years, yet their finances never really improve because their money has no map, no destination, and no system that keeps any of it in place. And here is what many people miss. You are not poor because you started late. You become poorer over time when you keep living without building a clear foundation under your own feet. But before we go any further, remember this. Rebuilding your finances does not begin with one huge leap. It begins like planting a seed, like laying the very first brick. Starting today, you only need to remember one simple system. Stop the leaks, face your cash flow, keep the part that matters most, and only then start building your future. If you have ever felt like you are already behind, leave yourself this one sentence: I am starting over today. Because as long as you still want to build, this road is not closed to you. What truly wears an adult down is not just the lack of money. It is the feeling that you have tried so hard, and still nothing seems to move. You go to work, you deal with pressure, you try to be responsible, try not to bother anyone, try to hold everything together so it all still looks fine on the outside. But all it takes is one car repair, one illness, one unexpected expense, and that whole wall of calm starts to shake. And that is when people realize the thing they are missing is not just money. What they are missing is a foundation. There is a very quiet kind of pain in adulthood that almost nobody talks about. It is the feeling of watching other people move forward while you just keep spinning in the same circle. Other people buy homes, other people start investing, other people have emergency funds, options, and a sense of safety. Meanwhile, after years of working, the only thing that seems to have grown in your life is your exhaustion. And the biggest fear is not how much you are short today. It is wondering what happens if 3 years from now, or 5 years from now, you are still standing in this exact same place. But what matters even more is this. A lot of people misunderstand the real nature of the problem. They think that if they just earn more, life will naturally become more stable. It sounds logical, but that is actually the quietest trap of all. Because if there is no system underneath it, a higher income only makes the flow stronger. It does not make the reservoir fuller. More money comes in, but it also slips out faster through little rewards, emotional decisions, and extra needs that show up because of pressure, comparison, and the desire to feel like you are living too. That is the first big realization many people come to far too late. Income does not build stability on its own. Only structure does that. Have you noticed this? There are months when you do not buy anything huge. No car, no gold, no luxury item. And yet at the end of the month, the money is still gone. It disappears into little coffees you buy to reward yourself after a hard day. A few meals out because you are too tired to cook. Small purchases you make because you feel like you deserve a little comfort. Quick card swipes that buy you a few minutes of relief. There is no dramatic collapse. It is just that tiny bricks from your future are being pulled out every single day without you even noticing. And here is what many people still miss. The issue is not that you lack discipline. The issue is that you are using money to patch the emotional cracks life keeps creating. You do not overspend only because you enjoy pleasure. A lot of the time you spend because you are simply too tired, because all day long you have been stressed, pushed, compared, and bottled up. So by the end of the day, money becomes the fastest way to comfort yourself. A good meal, something new, a short trip, a little feeling of, at least I still get to have this. And just like that, money stops being a seed for your future. It becomes pain relief for your present. That is the second big realization. Many people do not become poorer because they are lazy or incapable. They become poorer over time because life drains them so deeply that they are no longer clear-headed enough to protect their own cash flow. Hearing that might make your heart sink a little, because you realize the problem is not just in your wallet. It is in the way you are living, enduring, and soothing yourself every day without any long-term map at all. But before we go on, you need to understand something very important. Do not humiliate yourself just because you have not handled money well so far. Shame does not build a future. Self-blame does not lay a single brick. What you need is not more pressure. What you need is a new way of seeing things. A way of seeing them calmly enough to realize this. You are not broken. You just have not had a system. When a house is unstable, people do not blame the roof. They go back and look at the foundation. When a road keeps taking you back to the same place, the problem is not that you are walking too slowly. The problem is that you are following the wrong map. Personal finance works the same way. If you have spent years living with anxiety, insecurity, and no savings, then maybe it is time to stop asking, "How do I earn more right now?" and start asking a more mature question. How do I make every dollar that passes through my life start doing a job? Because from that moment on, everything changes. You no longer see money as something that simply comes and goes. You start seeing it as material for building your life. One part to help you stand firm. One part to help you breathe. One part to plant. One part to open new roads. And when the way you see money changes, your actions change with it. In the next part, we are going to get into the core of it all. If you have nothing today, what are the first 4 steps to rebuild your finances from zero without feeling overwhelmed and without waiting until you are making a lot more money before you begin? And if you have made it this far and felt like every line was talking about you, say this quietly to yourself. I am not too late. I just need a new way. If you are broke at 30, the worst part is not that your wallet feels thin right now. The worst part is that you look at your life like a pile of ruins and think you need some huge miracle before you can rebuild it. But the truth is, nobody rebuilds their finances through one dramatic breakthrough. People rebuild them one brick at a time, in the right place. One small step. One clear decision that quietly changes the whole direction of the flow from then on. And here is what many people miss. When your finances are a mess, you do not need to do more. You need to do things in the right order. Because a lot of people hear the phrase rebuilding your finances and immediately start thinking about investing, earning more, doubling their income, or getting rich faster. But if the foundation is still cracked, the higher you build, the easier it falls. If your cash flow is still running everywhere, the more you earn, the more exhausted you become trying to hold together a system that was never built in the first place. So, from now on, remember this very simple 4-step map. Stop, look, keep, build. Step 1. Stop. Stop the places where your money is quietly bleeding out. Not stop living, not cut out every bit of joy, but stop the habits of spending money just to rescue yourself from exhaustion for a moment. A purchase because you are bored. Ordering food because you are drained. Spending so you can feel like you are not falling behind everyone else. Those things are not evil, but if they happen too often, they are taking away the seeds of your future, one by one. Step 2. Look. Look directly at your cash flow the way you would look at the real map of your life. How much money comes in? Where does it go? Which expenses are necessary? Which ones are just emotional reflexes? But before we keep going, remember this. Numbers do not shame you. Numbers just tell the truth. And sometimes, the truth is the only thing that can pull someone out of confusion. Step 3. Keep. Keep a small portion for yourself before life takes all of it. Even if it is only 5%, 10%, or a very modest amount. Because the person who cannot hold on to the first drop will never have a reservoir. This is where many people have another big realization. You do not wait until there is extra money before you keep some. You keep some first, so you can train life to understand that money entering your hands is no longer allowed to drift away without direction. Step 4. Build. Once you have stopped the leaks, looked clearly, and kept the part that matters most, then you begin to build. Build an emergency fund. Build money habits. Build skills that can raise your income. Build calm around your future. Lasting financial stability is not a craze. It is a construction project. By now you may realize that what you have been missing all along is not motivation. You have been missing a path. And once you have a map, you do not need to run fast anymore. You just need to move in the right direction. If you feel like you are standing at this starting point right now, tell yourself one simple sentence. Today, I am laying the first brick. Because sometimes the moment a person truly matures with money is not the moment they earn more. It is the moment they stop letting life drag them around and start building their own foundation with their own hands. In the next part, we are going to go deeper into the most important first step. If you want to rebuild your finances, what exactly do you need to stop first? And what quiet money leaks are keeping you from ever getting your head above water? Now we are getting into the first step, which is also the one people most often underestimate. Stop. It sounds simple, but in reality, this is the step that decides whether you can truly rebuild your finances or not. Because a lot of people talk about earning more, investing, creating passive income, doubling their money, but they forget one very basic truth. If the bucket is still leaking, no amount of extra water will ever fill it. Some people have worked for 10 years and still feel like they are carrying water in a bucket full of holes. They are not standing still. They are trying. They are working overtime, taking on extra jobs, learning new skills. But month after month, what remains is still very little. And what hurts them is not only the tiny amount left over. It is the helpless feeling of not even understanding where the money went. But what matters even more is this. Money rarely disappears in one huge explosion. It usually disappears through tiny cracks, very quietly, very reasonably, in ways that feel like, I am just living the way everybody else does. And because it feels reasonable, that is exactly what makes it dangerous. Nobody destroys the foundation of their life in a single day. People pull out one brick at a time, little by little, until one day they look back and realize everything is already unstable. And here is what many people miss. The biggest financial leak is usually not in your wallet. It is in your psychology. You do not lose money only because you spend a lot. You lose money because sometimes spending becomes the fastest way for you to breathe again. After a day that feels too heavy, you reward yourself with a meal that costs more than usual. After a stressful week, you buy something to feel like you still have some control over your life. After a month full of problems, you tell yourself, whatever, life is short. It sounds small. It sounds harmless. But the problem was never one single time. The problem is that those behaviors repeat often enough to become your default current. This is the first big realization that takes many people a very long time to see. Most of us do not spend money according to a plan. We spend money according to our emotional state. When we are happy, we spend to celebrate. When we are sad, we spend to compensate. When we are tired, we spend to save ourselves from burnout. When we feel behind, we spend to patch our self-worth. And then we wrap all of that in one beautiful phrase. I deserve it. Yes, you do deserve good things. Everyone deserves to treat themselves with care. But here is a painful truth. If every time your emotions wobble, you have to use money to bring yourself back to a stable place, then your money will never get the chance to become a seed for your future. It will only keep putting out fires in your present. Imagine your finances as a field. Every dollar that comes in is a seed. In theory, if you know how to keep it, plant it in the right place, and tend to it long enough, that field will grow. But if every day you keep throwing handfuls of those seeds into the fire just to stay warm for a few minutes, then yes, today might feel a little less cold, but next season, there will still be nothing to harvest. That is exactly what financial life looks like for a lot of adults. They are not wasteful in some glamorous way. They are wasteful in a tired way. They are not spending to show off. They are spending to cope. They are not living in luxury. They are just trying to make life feel a little less suffocating through short-term pleasures. And if you see yourself in that, do not rush to blame yourself. Because the issue is not that you are weak. The issue is that nobody ever taught you how to recognize these emotional leaks. The first leak is spending to reduce pain. This is the most common kind of spending, and yet very few people call it by its real name. You are tired, so you order food. You are stressed, so you shop. You are bored, so you scroll on your phone, see something that seems reasonable, and tap buy. Not because you truly need it, but because you need relief right now. Money is no longer a tool here. It becomes pain medication. And like all pain medication, it works fast, but it does not cure the root problem. The second leak is spending to maintain the image that you are still doing fine. Some expenses are not there because they make you happy. They are there because they keep you from feeling like you are slipping behind. A new phone so you do not feel outdated around your friends. A nice coffee shop so your life does not feel too dull. A polished outfit so you do not have to face the feeling of being less than other people. Those expenses are not always wrong, but if you are not careful, they turn into something very dangerous. You start using money to buy back the feeling that you matter. But what matters even more is this. Your value does not rise just because the outside of your life looks less behind than someone else's. That is the second big realization. A lot of people think their money problem is about income, but deeper than that, it is about identity. You do not spend only to own something. You spend to feel like you are not being left behind. And as long as that fear of being left behind is still there, every level of income will eventually feel like it is not enough. The third leak is spending for convenience. It sounds harmless, but this is the most silent kind of spending. The expenses that feel like it is not that much often add up into a number that shocks you by the end of the month. Food delivery because cooking feels like too much. Rideshare because you do not feel like waiting. Upgrading something because it is easier. Automatic payments because you do not want to think about it. Each one is small, very reasonable, very normal. But the problem is not any one purchase by itself. The problem is that you have trained yourself to use money to buy convenience every time your energy runs low. And here is what many people miss. Money does not only flow out because of desire, it also flows out because of exhaustion. When you are too tired, you make worse decisions. You become less patient. You choose what is faster instead of what is better. You tell yourself, this one time is fine, and then that one time turns into a lifestyle. In other words, sometimes your finances are not falling apart because you lack discipline. They are falling apart because you have been living in a state of exhaustion for too long. And a tired person can almost never make good long-term decisions consistently. The fourth leak is spending to reward yourself for enduring too much. This is a trap many working adults fall into. They feel like they have already struggled all week, all month, all year. So each expense feels like a legitimate reward. A trip, an item, an experience, a really good meal, a night of pure release. Nobody is saying you cannot enjoy the results of your hard work. But if your life runs on the formula, the more exhausted I feel, the more I need to spend to make up for it, then you will never get very far. Because the moment you move forward a little, you use that progress to drift right back to where you started. Remember something very important. Enjoying life does not make you poor, but living through constant self-compensation will make it impossible for you to build savings. That is the difference many people do not see. A person with a system still enjoys life, but they enjoy it using money that has already been assigned that role. A person without a system enjoys life using money that should have become a foundation, an emergency fund, or a brick for the future. Two people can buy the same cup of coffee, but for one person, that money was already set aside for joy. For the other, it was a tiny amount pulled out of next month's peace of mind. But before we keep going, I want you to pause for a moment and be honest with yourself. Over the past few months, have you been spending money because of real needs, or because you were too tired to think anymore? Are you buying what you truly need, or trying to patch an inner emptiness through small online orders? Are you living by a map, or just letting the current carry you wherever it wants? These are not easy questions, but they are the doorway to change, because you cannot stop a current if you have never looked at where it is actually flowing. Another very common mistake is when people think, I just need to earn more and then I will be fine. No, earning more can make life easier to breathe through, but it does not automatically fix the leaks. If someone does not know how to keep 10 million Vietnamese dong, they probably will not know how to keep 20 million Vietnamese dong either. The only difference is that the expenses become fancier, more reasonable, and more sophisticated. Yesterday it was food delivery. Tomorrow it is restaurants. Yesterday it was random little purchases. Tomorrow it is investing in myself, even though it is not really necessary. Yesterday it was spending because you felt sad. Tomorrow it is spending because you have worked so hard. And here is a powerful shift in perspective. A higher income does not always pull you out of insecurity. A lot of the time, it just upgrades the way you feel insecure. You earn more, but you still do not feel safe. You spend more beautifully, but you still feel empty. You look more put together on the outside, but inside, you still do not feel grounded. Why? Because the issue was never just the amount of money. The issue is that you have not built a healthy relationship with money. When it comes in, you spend it to release pressure. When it is low, you panic, then spend again just to feel less anxious. Both directions pull you farther away from peace. So the step called stop is not about becoming cheap. It is about waking up. Stop does not mean cutting off every joy. Stop means no longer letting your emotions drive your wallet. Stop does not mean living a harder life. Stop means refusing to keep using your future to pay for the short-term soothing your present wants. Stop is not about punishing yourself. Stop is about saving the foundation before the cracks spread any further. So what exactly do you need to stop? You need to stop the expenses that leave you feeling not lighter after you pay, but only numb for a moment. You need to stop the purchases that come from exhaustion, wounded pride, comparison, and boredom. You need to stop living in a way where every hard day demands a comfort fee. You need to stop telling yourself, "I deserve it," every time you want to break your discipline, when deep down you know what you deserve. Even more is a future that feels less fragile. By now, some people may feel a little uncomfortable. That is normal. The truth is rarely soft, but that discomfort is actually a good sign. It means you are starting to see things you have been rationalizing for far too long. A person can only rebuild their finances once they accept this truth. The issue is not only that there is too little money. The issue is that every time money passes through your life, you have not been clear enough to give it a job. Money should be assigned roles, one part to live on, one part for unexpected trouble, one part to learn and grow, one part to enjoy without guilt, one part to plant for the future. But people without a system let all of it blend into one stream. And by the end of the month, all that remains is exhaustion and self-blame. If you have nothing right now, do not force yourself to think about becoming rich. Do something smaller, but more real. Seal the leaks. A house does not stand because the roof looks beautiful. It stands because the foundation is no longer cracking. A boat cannot sail if there is still a hole underneath it. A field cannot turn green if the seeds keep getting burned every day just to provide a little warmth. And that is why the first step in this journey is not, how much more can I make? It is, how much can I stop losing? Do not underestimate that. Some people do not change their lives because they doubled their income. They change their lives the very first moment they learn how to hold on to what they used to let slip away unconsciously. If you are hearing this and feel like something just hit home, make this one quiet promise to yourself. I will not let my emotions drive my money anymore. That sentence alone means you have already started laying the first brick of a new foundation. In the next part, we move to the second step. Look. That means looking directly at the truth of your finances without avoiding it, without lying to yourself, and without living in a fog anymore. Because many people do not lack effort. They just lack a map clear enough to show them where they stand, what they are losing, and where they need to begin building. After talking about the first step, stop, we now move to the second step, look. It sounds simple, but for many adults, this is actually the hardest step. Because stopping one kind of spending is already hard, but looking directly at the full picture of your finances is even harder. It is like standing in front of a house with too many cracks and turning on the lights for the first time so you can finally see what is collapsing, what is leaking, and what needs to be fixed right away before everything comes down. A lot of people spend years living in a haze when it comes to money. They know they are short, they know they feel pressure. They know there is usually not much left by the end of the month, but they do not really know how much is coming in, how much is going out, where it is disappearing, and what exactly is dragging them backward. They live like someone walking down a road covered in fog, still moving, still tired, still trying, but with no map. And here is what many people miss. What truly exhausts you is not just the lack of money, it is the lack of clarity. When there is no clarity, everything feels heavier. You always feel like you need to try harder, but you do not know where to put that effort. You always feel unsure about the future, but you do not know where to begin fixing things. You always feel like money is one chaotic current that comes in this month and disappears the next. And because you cannot see clearly, you soothe yourself with familiar lines like, maybe my income just is not high enough yet. Maybe this is how everyone lives these days. I will deal with it when life feels more stable. But what matters even more is this. Vagueness does not protect you. Vagueness only delays the moment you save yourself. This is the first big realization of this step. You cannot fix what you refuse to look at. Nobody rebuilds a foundation by closing their eyes and hoping for the best. Nobody grows a field without knowing how many seeds are left. And nobody rebuilds their finances while still only estimating everything in their head. So what does look actually mean? It means you need to put your entire cash flow on the table. No judgment, no insulting yourself, no sugarcoating, just clear honesty. You need to see at least 4 numbers. First, your real take-home income. Not the number you think you make. The actual money that lands in your hands after every deduction, cost, and extra expense. Second, your fixed costs. Rent, utilities, basic food, transportation, debt payments, family responsibilities. This is the foundation of daily life. Third, your emotional and unconscious spending. This is where many people get shocked. Tiny expenses, reasonable expenses, no big deal expenses. But together, they add up to a number large enough to slow your future down by years. Fourth, the amount of money truly left at the end of the month. Not the number you hope is left, the real number. But before we keep going, remember something very important. When you see an ugly truth, that does not mean you have failed. It means you finally have a map. And even a painful map is far better than wandering forever in the fog. Some people think they are living frugally until they sit down and write out every expense, only to realize how much money they lose every month to convenience, self-soothing, and decisions made in moments of exhaustion. Some people think the biggest problem is low pay until they realize that the real thing pulling bricks out of their foundation is a life with no structure. And that is the second big realization. The truth can hurt, but it is also the thing that opens the door to change. Because the moment you see clearly, you stop being a victim of vagueness. You begin to notice, all right, this is where my money is flowing in the wrong direction. This is the expense I can tighten up. This is the leak I need to seal first. This is the place where I can keep my first seed for the future. Many people are afraid to look because they think the truth will make them feel inadequate. But no, a weak person is not someone with bad numbers. A weak person is someone who knows they are drifting and still chooses not to look at the water. The person who dares to sit down, face it, write it out, and see clearly where they stand. That is the person who is finally starting to grow up with money. If you truly want to rebuild starting today, do something very small but very powerful. Tonight, sit down for 20 minutes, open your phone or a notebook, and write down those 4 numbers. It does not need to be perfect. It does not need to look pretty. It just needs to be real. That could be the first time in years that you stop living in a fog around money and start laying the first brick of control. And if you want to make a promise to yourself, say one simple sentence. I am not avoiding this anymore. Because from the moment you dare to look directly at the truth, your path to rebuilding your finances truly begins. In the next part, we move to the third step, keep. That means learning how not just to see your money clearly, but to start keeping the first vital portion of it, the part that helps you panic less, feel less fragile, and finally sense that your life is being rebuilt from the foundation up. After you have stopped the leaks and looked directly at your cash flow, we come to the third step, keep. This is where things truly begin to change, because seeing clearly only wakes you up. Keeping part of your money is what lays the very first brick for a sense of safety. A lot of people go through years of life without ever really feeling this. The feeling that even if something small happens, you will not break immediately. A car repair, a slow month at work, an unexpected bill, a bout of illness. For someone who has kept nothing, every problem feels like a hard gust of wind hitting a house that was already fragile. But for someone who has started to keep even a very small amount, life no longer throws them into panic quite so easily. But what matters even more is this. Many people think they need to be comfortable before they can start keeping money. That is a very common false belief. The truth is, you do not keep money after life gives you leftovers. You keep it first, so life learns that it cannot keep sweeping you away the way it used to. This is the first big realization of this step. Money does not stay with the person who waits until there is plenty left over. Money stays with the person who knows how to put their future first. Keeping does not mean clutching everything tightly. Keeping does not mean living miserably. Keeping means telling yourself, from today on, Every dollar that passes through my life is no longer allowed to disappear unconsciously. It has to have a place to stay, a job to do, a brick to become, a seed to be planted. But before we go further, remember this. Your first goal is not to get rich. Your first goal is to become less fragile. Do not force yourself to think about some distant version of financial freedom, when right now you do not even have a small cushion to breathe on. A wise adult does not build a tower from the top down. They build the base from the ground up. They hold on to the vital part first, and only then start thinking about going farther. Right now, maybe all you can keep is a very small amount. That is all right. The issue is not the size of the amount at the beginning. The issue is the action itself. A person who manages to keep their first 500,000 Vietnamese dong is rebuilding their identity. They are telling life, I am no longer someone who lets money pass through my hands without anything remaining. And here is what many people miss. A small amount kept consistently is far more powerful than a large amount that only appears during one burst of motivation. You do not need a huge leap. You need a steady rhythm. You do not need to prove anything to anyone. You just need to create a patch of ground that feels solid enough for you to stand on. And from that patch of ground, everything else can begin to grow. If you do not know where to begin today, start with one very small promise. The next time money comes into your hands, keep part of it before life has the chance to take all of it. No matter how little it is, let it become your first marker. Because peace of mind does not come from how much you earn in a day. It comes from knowing you are building something for tomorrow. If you are hearing this and feel your heart settling a little, say this quietly to yourself. I do not need to be rich right away. I just need to start keeping my future. In the next part, we come to the final step, and the one that opens the door to the longest-lasting hope. Build. How do you take the small amounts you keep today and slowly turn them into a stronger, calmer financial system that can carry you farther in the years ahead? After you stop, look, and keep, you arrive at the final step. Build. This is the moment when money stops being only about surviving. It becomes a construction project, a path, a map that, starting today, you walk with intention instead of letting life drag you through exhaustion. A lot of people stop at the point where they feel less panicked and think that is enough. But what matters even more is this. If you only keep money without building a system, you will always stay in defense mode. You may feel less fragile, but you still are not truly moving forward. And life does not only need safety. Life also needs direction. It needs a foundation solid enough to build higher levels on top of it. Choice, calm, and freedom. So what does build actually mean? Build means that from the small amounts you have already kept, you begin assigning roles. One part becomes a safety fund, so that when trouble comes, you do not break right away. One part becomes a growth fund to help you learn new skills and expand your ability to earn. One part becomes a future fund, so you can slowly build assets, even if it starts very small. And one part becomes a life fund, so you can still enjoy your life without guilt or losing control. And here is what many people miss. Building finances is not only about building money, it is about rebuilding the person who is holding that money. If you used to live by emotion, now you learn to live by system. If you used to make decisions in a fog, now you place each brick with clarity. If money used to pass through your hands like water through stone, now every dollar has a place, a job, and a meaning. This is a very important realization. Lasting wealth does not begin with a large amount of money. It begins with the ability to repeat the right decisions for long enough. What matters is not how much you save this month. What matters is whether next month and the month after that, you keep laying more bricks. A house is not built by one hard throw. It is built brick by brick, carefully placed, repeated, patiently, with a clear blueprint. But before we go further, you need to understand something very real. Building will be slow. There will be moments when you feel impatient. There will be times when you look at other people moving faster, and your heart starts to waver again. There will be moments when you ask yourself, is this really worth it? But this is exactly where people either return to their old path or truly mature. Because building a life has never been a race powered by inspiration. It is a game of consistency. Maybe you do not have much today, but if you already know how to stop the leaks, look at the truth, keep the vital part, and begin building a system, then you are not the same person anymore. You are no longer the person who only knows how to worry. You are the person rebuilding a foundation. You are the person planting seeds. You are the person opening a new road for yourself, even if that road still looks very small today. If you feel like this is exactly the stage you are in, say this quietly to yourself. I am not building to be better than anyone. I am building so my life can stand more firmly. Because when you stop trying to prove yourself to the world, you finally have the strength to build for yourself. In the next part, we come to the most important idea of all. If you are 30 years old today and still have nothing to your name, how do you stop seeing that as the end and turn it into the strongest turning point of your life?